Greetings and salutations, family. It is me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Boxing community. Shout out to the Louisiana All American Sports Network. And shout out to Envision Photography and Video. Last, definitely not least, shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the mighty Jaguars. This is not the tailgate party. Next episode of the tailgate party will be, I'm gonna say about, I'm gonna say maybe about 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. But in this particular live stream, I'm gonna talk about who should be Southern's next head football coach. Uh, I'm gonna have this discussion. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. You dig? All right, let me get a couple things straight, and then we getting ready to pop it off. Okay, let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let me give you a real quick description for today's show. Who should be Southern's? Who should be Southern next head coach? Time for Roman Banks to go to? Question mark. After Southern's blowout loss to Bethune-Cookman, Jaguar Nation wants change now. In this live stream, I break down the top candidates to replace Terrence Graves as head football coach and ask the tough question. Should athletic director Roma Banks be fired too? Join the conversation as we discuss what's next for Southern University football. Subscribe for more Southern Jaguars football content. Comment your pick for the next head football coach below. Like the video and support the channel. You dig? So let's see who we got in the build down. Salute to the family, relax and calm reign. He said, salute, coach, chat, Jaguar Nation, and HBCU family. Man, salute to you, relax and calm reign. He said, pack up Banks, Graves, and the entire coaching staff and ship them out of here as soon as possible. Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm going to be honest with you. If it was a me call, they already would have asked Terrence Graves and Fred McNair will be our interim head coach, but that's another story for another day. He said this is unacceptable. I agree. And then he put hashtag Go Jags. Next, we got motivation to be a millionaire. He said, salute Coach 67, chat, Jaguar Nation, and HBCU family. He said, like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate that because I'm about 110 subscribers away from that magical, majestic 1,000 subscriber mark. Hopefully, I hit it this weekend for homecoming, but that's another story for another day. He said it's time for Hayes to roll. The product on the field is not cutting it. I agree with you 100%. He said PV will destroy us for homecoming. Hopefully not, but more than likely they probably will, just to be honest and just to keep it a buck. Hashtag Go Jags, I agree. Man, salute to my brother Desmond Allen. He said, Go Jags, salute to you. Man, salute to my brother Blackwater Bayou. Of course, I met him for the Peterson Classic against Alabama State. Too bad, salute to him and salute to Pops. Too bad he had to come all the way from Houston, Texas, just to watch a terrible product that is the current state of Southern University football. Blackwater Bayou, he said, salute coach and chat. Man, salute to your fam. Desmond Allen said Quinn Gray, but fam, you might try to get him since Quinn is a FAMU alum. Remember, Banks never wanted Graves. Yeah, he didn't want Graves. In fact, I'm going to talk about this conversation I had. I was downtown Baton Rouge today. And, I was downtown Baton Rouge. And I was going to take care of some business. And the guy was like, hey, coach, what's up? And I'm like, how you doing? So, woo. And we talked for a while, you know what I'm saying? And this conversation this live stream, of course, I'm an administrator now. I no longer teach PE. So I'm going to be here for a good time, not a long time. So, I ain't going to make it one of these hour-long live streams. But, we talked about, this particular topic, you know what I'm saying? And, basically he was saying the same thing. He was saying that, it's time for, Coach Terrence Graves to go. And we just talk about a bunch of different components to this particular topic. So I'm going to break it down. And of course, major shout out to, the HBCU game day. They had a similar conversation in talking about this topic, but they addressed it from a overall SWAT perspective, in terms of from a FAMU perspective, they're not content. They want Coach James Colsey out. Man, salute to Swack and the fool. He said, what's good, man? What's good with your fam? They talked about it from a whole SWAT perspective. They talked about, FAMU wanting James Colsey out. How Alcorn State, they want Cedric Thomas out. Grambling State want Mickey Joseph out. And of course, Jaguar Nation, we want Terrence Graves out. And I think one thing we need to take into consideration when we're having this conversation about who's going to be the next Southern University head coach, FAMU is not doing well at all as we speak. FAMU not doing well. Alcorn State not doing well. Grambling isn't doing well either. So those are 4 teams in the SWAC that may potentially need new head coaches at the end of the season. So, this is something that each school, and of course, they talked about the different dynamics at each school. They were saying how basically, if you look at from a FAMU perspective, they don't have an athletic director right now. So maybe firing James Colsey, even though, Rattler Nation is not content with the way things are going, it might not be a wise move to to get rid of James Coolsey right now. You know, they was talking about how Willie Simmons, he did a good job building that program up. And the reason why they hired him is because essentially, you know, he was a part of their staff and they thought he would, you know, basically take the system that Willie Simmons had in place and continue things. But of course, him and his staff, they have not done that. And pretty much Rattler Nation won him out. In addition to that, Cedric Thomas, you know, they figured once they pivoted from Fred McNair, you know, after that, the whole fiasco with Fred McNair basically putting Alcorn against Texas Southern in terms of potentially being in a bidding war for them. You know, they didn't want to get in a bidding war. So essentially what they did is they was like, hey, we're not going to get into a bidding war. Basically, if Texas Southern, y'all want them, y'all have it. And, of course, that situation ended up unraveling from a Fred McNair standpoint. But the thing about it is, in terms of Alcorn State, like, Cedric Thomas has not done a good job, you know. And then, you know, also from a Grambling State perspective, you know, salute to my brother, Doc Holliday on HBCU Overdrive. Of course, man, salute the swag and the fool in the building, you know what I'm saying? You know, looking at Mickey Joseph at Grambling. And that's another thing that aggravated me this weekend, you know, in one of these 100 SWAC group chats that I'm in terms of different SWAC Facebook groups. You know, they was talking about this and that and the third, and some Grambling fans were saying, yeah, we lost the Texas Southern, but we didn't get blown out like the other HBCU from Louisiana. And I'm mad at myself, bro. Y'all are not in a position to talk. Yeah, y'all have 3 wins, but they all against Division II schools. So if I was Grambling fans, like, you the pot calling the kettle black. I'm going to be honest with you. Looking at Southern remaining schedule, like, that's one of the few games I think Southern can actually win. I think they can actually beat FAMU. They can actually beat Grambling. All the rest of them games, maybe Alcorn, maybe. So maybe they could win 3 of those games. But, I mean, Grambling, y'all cheated to beat Kentucky State. Y'all actually had to cheat to beat Kentucky State. So y'all ain't in a position to talk about, hey, you know, we lost, but at least we didn't get blown out like Southern. Especially if Southern wins in the Bayou Classic. So if I was Grambling fans, you know, if it was me, man, I would just be quiet, you know what I'm saying? Blackwater Bayou said if Southern was smart, they should strike first if they're going to fire Graves, because it's going to be other teams competing for new coaches also. Yeah, and that's one of the components that, you know, we talked about. And I think the guy, man, I think his name was Mr. Troy. Salute to him if he's listening. You know, we had a good conversation. I was going to take care of some business. So, you know, I was downtown Baton Rouge, and he recognized me, and we ended up chopping it up for like maybe a good 10 minutes or whatever. And we talked about this topic that I'm getting ready to deep dive into. Man, salute to Kendrick Wicker. He said we need a fresh face with new system and know how to use their players. Look bad because of the play is being called currently this season, and no adjustments or changes been made since week 1 in Atlanta. And that's another thing too with Terrence Graves. I'm gonna be honest with you. Jaguar Nation was never really sold on Terrence Graves as their next head coach. I was willing to give him a shot, but I'm not gonna lie, it has been an epic failure. And the issue with him is he kind of like, I'm gonna be honest with you, he remind me of this relationship I was in. You know what I'm saying? This woman would tell me all the right things, but her actions and her words were never in alignment. And the same thing with him. Terrence Graves, he like a used car salesman or a politician. He gonna tell you what you want to hear, but he's not gonna do anything. So, you know, that's problematic. And a lot of people starting to pick up on that, and they starting to notice that is the fact that, yeah, you saying all the right things, but your actions and what you're saying is not in alignment. So it's like you get in these press conferences, whether it's during the week, especially post game, you get in these press conferences and basically you lying through your teeth. Look, man, don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me the truth. Are y'all actually gonna do something? And it seems like they're not doing nothing. And that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? Kendrick Wicker said, I think that's the players look bad wise of the bad play call. I'm not gonna lie, the play calling. I'm not gonna lie, not just the play calling, because I'm not gonna lie, his staff, they're not doing a good job from a coaching perspective in terms of X's and O's and decision making and making adjustments, clock management, game management. But even like if you look at Saturday, out the blue, out of nowhere, you just start Cameron McCoy for what? Like why? I mean, we clearly established that. First of all, I talked to a couple people behind the scenes. Like the whole Jalen Wood situation is confusing. From what I'm understanding, he's cleared concussion protocol. Now they say he's not cleared concussion protocol. In addition to him not being cleared from a concussion protocol standpoint, he been practicing. So how in the hell he practicing if he not cleared concussion protocol? Like that don't make no sense to me. The entire situation is confusing. I don't know what's going on. But at the end of the day, like this whole situation is a fiasco. You started Cameron McCoy. First play of the game, he threw a slant to Darren Morris, who go all the way like 71 yards, whatever, for a touchdown. Cool. But the offense the rest of the way just looked like trash. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I got a lot of people on this list. I'm gonna try to dissect it as much as possible. You know what I'm saying? Blackwater Bayou said, I told you guys from day one Graves was not it. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Blackwater Bayou. You said you was one of the people that was basically saying, like, hey, he not that guy. You was saying he was a trash. He was trash when he was a defensive coordinator. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Blackwater Bayou was one of the first people to point that out in the comment section. So yeah, I gotta give you props on that. Salute to Russell Smith. He said, won't lie. I would love to see Eric Rounder as athletic director. Me too. I'm gonna be honest with you. Whether it's athletic director, whether it's head coach, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Eric Rounder in either position because the last school I was the head coach of, he ended up becoming an administrator at the school during the year. And when we had the little banquet at the end of the season, he was there. And not only that, one of my former coworkers, when she got married, he was at the wedding. I wanted to go say what's up and be like, hey man, could I get an interview? But of course, that wasn't the time nor the place. We was there, celebrating her. She played basketball at Southern. So that wasn't the time either the place for it. You know what I'm saying? D-Lo, B2 2010, he said it took all of that time and then y'all hired Graves, who was already on staff. He said that never made sense to me. It did make sense. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna talk about going all the way back to Eric Dooley. That didn't make sense to me either. So, we got a lot to point out. Man, salute to my brother Jay Good. This is a conversation he and I, besides me talking to Mr. Troy downtown Baton Rouge today, he and I also been talking about this behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying? Russell Smith said, brother, he is a proven winner. He is a good administrator. Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, he's been a administrator, all around East Baton Rouge. So yeah, so I'm not gonna lie. I think he would make a good athletic director or a good coach, truthfully speaking. But I mean, would he want to be the head coach of Southern? I doubt it. Like you said, more than likely it'll probably be in his best interest to be the athletic director more than the head coach, because he might not want the pressure of being the head coach, you know what I'm saying? But who knows? I think he would be a good fit in either position. Russell Smith said Banks need to go first, then Grace. I agree with you, you know what I'm saying? Blackwater Bayou said A.W. Mumford was a championship coach before Southern. Pete Richardson was a championship coach before Southern. So my pick is we should go after Trey Oliver. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna talk about that aspect of it. Me, I mean, I got a long list, and I'm gonna break it down person by person. You know what I'm saying? In fact, hold on one second. All right, sorry about that. Take care of something real quick. But of course, I got a long list of candidates that I'm going to just kind of start at the top and work my way down. Now, first and foremost, this current Southern University team is not that good. The coaching staff is terrible in terms of from an X's and O's standpoint, play calling standpoint, decision making standpoint, making adjustments, game management, clock management, like all of the above. And in addition to that, they haven't done a good job from a recruit standpoint. And not only from a recruit standpoint, but in terms of, evaluating talent and grooming and developing talent. They have not done a good job developing talent. This whole regime when it came to Roma Banks, truthfully speaking, like, for a while, just think about it. Southern has not won a SWAC championship in football since 2013. And not only that, but in terms of, and let me be clear about Roma Banks. Roma Banks was a very good head basketball coach. However, he's left a lot to be desired in terms of an athletic director. So let me say that again. Roma Banks is a good basketball coach, but he's left a lot to be desired in terms of an athletic director. I don't think he's that guy from an athletic director standpoint. I'd rather him be my basketball coach than my AD. You know what I'm saying? And, just looking at Southern hires from the past, you know what I'm saying? Of course, we could go all the way back to Pete Richardson. After everything, when Southern had, Marino Chasm and Gerald Kimball, you go get Pete Richardson. Pete Richardson was the guy. He ended up dominating. He was the dean of the SWAC, and he had a good long run. Then, when the game had passed him by the same way it did Coach Robertson, I didn't like the way they hired Stump Mitchell whatsoever. To me, that was a terrible hire. And not only that, just the press conference, man, this dude, he looked so arrogant and cocky. Like, he just rubbed me the wrong way. You understand what I'm saying? So then you go from Stump Mitchell. And the one thing about it, I think from a talent standpoint, there was talent. But in terms of his game management, his decision-making, his clock management was trash. I remember one game, like Dre Joseph and Jeremiah McGinty were the two quarterbacks. And he made it clear that, hey, I'm going to play both of them, regardless, whatever, woo. I'm like, all right, whatever, And Southern was winning, and Dre Joseph was in the game. Either Dre Joseph or Jeremiah McGinty. And at halftime, he just, for no reason, to start the second half, he switched quarterbacks. And guess what? After that, they ended up losing the game. And I'm like, dude, why you didn't just stick with the one quarterback that you had? Why not just stick with him instead of flip-flopping between Jeremiah McGinty and Dre Joseph? Why not just stick with Dre Joseph? And in one game, Dre Joseph was playing bad. Jeremiah McGinty was playing good, and Dre Joseph played bad. And he just kept flip-flopping. I'm like, dude, stick with a quarterback. They both true freshmen, woo. And then once they lost to Valley, like, that was it for him. You know what I'm saying? Just like this weekend, Southern was 7-0 against Bethune-Cookman. And you go to Daytona and you get the doors blown off. That is insane to me, bro. So they pivoted to Dawson Odoms. And the thing Dawson Odoms, he kind of exposed when it came to Stump Mitchell was the fact that team had talent. I think Stump Mitchell did a good job recruiting, but he just was a terrible coach. If anything, I think he was a good NFL position coach. Some guys, I'm not going to lie, some guys are position coaches. Some guys are coordinators. You can see with Southern. Not Southern. You can see with the Saints. Like Dennis Allen, all he was the defensive coordinator. Dennis Allen is not an NFL head coach. I'm unapologetic about me saying that. And I think the same thing when it comes to Terrence Graves. Terrence Graves is to me, at best, he's a position coach. He's not even a coordinator. He's a position coach. Same thing with Stump Mitchell. I think Stump Mitchell was a good NFL position coach. He wasn't a head coach, in my personal opinion. So you had Odoms, and then, of course, you get to the point where, Odoms won a contract extension, woo. Jaguar Nation was never really sold on him to begin with. And, when it was time to pay him, essentially, Norfolk State just ended up giving him $40,000 more than Southern was paying him, and he left. So from what I was told at the time, that, Marshall Faulk was one of the candidates. He was supposed to be the next guy, but the NFL Network scandal hit. I have not been able to talk to anyone definitely that has been able to confirm nor deny this, but supposedly Marshall Faulk was supposed to be the next guy or whatever, and that didn't happen. And not only that, Kevin Sumlin also was supposed to be the next guy. No, I'm sorry. Before we get to that, so Jason Rollins ended up being the interim. Jason Rollins ended up being an interim guy or whatever. Like I said, he was supposed to pivot to Falk, but it didn't happen because of the NFL Network scandal. And then Jason Rollins ended up being the interim guy, and he did a terrible job too. Then you ended up going get Eric Dooley. After Eric Dooley and Prairie View just lost in the SWAC championship game in Jackson State, like you hire him, and not only do you hire him, but you pay him $60,000 more than you would have paid Dawson Norton, which was insane to me. I'm like, bro, this dude, Eric Dooley, he could not beat Dawson Norton. When he was the head coach at Prairie View and Dawson Norton was the head coach at Southern, he couldn't beat Dawson Norton. And you're going to hire this guy? And you're going to pay him $60,000 more than you would have paid Odoms? That was insane to me. And, of course, he had the whole fiasco in terms of the Glenda Bubba McDaniel, Bashawn McCray situation. He just started Bashawn McCray because he had a close personal relationship with Bashawn and Benny McCray. Whether Southern would have won the SWAC championship game or not, I still believe they would have won. Jackson State fans like, nah, it wouldn't have mattered because, he lost to Jackson State the year before with the woo. But you could see the difference between when Bashawn McCray and Harold Blood was in the game at quarterback, and then you take them out and you put Glenda Bump McDaniel, you could see the difference. So at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is. So you ended up, getting rid of him. The final straw was, of course, they ended up playing even worse the next season. But the bottom really fell out when you went to Longman, Mississippi, and you got the doors blown off against Alcorn State. Alcorn State just smashed Southern. I'm not going to even lie. Like, a couple people that sit in my section was like, hey, man, I know they still owe him $300K. Get him out of there now. I don't care if we got to pick up a collection at Southern University last home game. Let's get him out there. Then, of course, Southern last game of the season, home game against Prairie View. Like, hey, you still got a chance if you beat Prairie View. And whoever ended up winning the game ended up playing against who it was at the time, FAMU. That was Willie Simmons last year when he had Jeremy Moose at quarterback. Of course, that was a fiasco even with early in the season when they played against FAMU. Basically, he's saying that they played drop 8, playing, prevent, and that wasn't the case. He lied. Even though you got a player in Chandler Whitfield who was like, hey, I fumbled a punt. I got to be better. We was in a position. We were in position to go up 2 scores. So they were in position to go up 2 scores. Chandler Whitfield fumbled. At the end of the game, they had like a minute and some change, whatever, right at the 50-yard line. He tried to run the ball, and he hollered, but they was playing drop 8. Man, shut up, bro. I'm a football coach. You cannot lie. You can't sell me the bull jive lie. You know what I'm saying? So he had done a bunch of stuff that had already rubbed Jaguar Nation the wrong way. And they ended up getting rid of him after they ended up losing the last home game of the season against Prairie View. Prairie View ended up going on to play against FAMU in the SWAC championship game, whatever. All right. So you pivot to Terrence Graves, who ended up being an interim. They ended up beating Grambling in the Bayou Classic. And I'm not gonna lie, at that time, a lot of us, we wanted Berry or Trey Oliver to be the next head coach. But, from what I'm understanding, from a monetary standpoint, Southern really didn't have the finances to go in that direction. And basically, that was it. They ended up, keeping Graves, which was, I wasn't high on, you know what I'm saying? And at the beginning of last year, I said it, go back and look at, me, my video leading up to the McNeese State game. I'm like, look, he got to win this game. He got to get the season started off on the right foot. The reason being is because you got a tough schedule. If stuff goes sideways, then Jaguar Nation gonna turn. I said it then, and guess what? They ended up were leading 85% of the game. And I don't mind going to that game and getting wet. My socks got wet, my underwear got wet. I didn't mind getting wet if Southern won. Southern led 85% of the game. You get a field goal block. McNeese ended up scoring. Get a punt block or whatever. McNeese ended up winning the game. And then after that, you're going to losing streak. The worst part of the season last year to me was getting blown out at home by Nicholls State University, which was insane to me. Senior went to Nicholls State. I can't stand Nicholls State. In fact, actually, Nicholls State is closer to where I'm from than Southern is, actually. So I couldn't stand losing. I'll guarantee you I beat Nicholls State the Highway one that night because I left early. It was unacceptable. But they ended up turning the season around. It ended up going on a winning streak. And then they ended up, getting beat thoroughly in the SWAC championship game against Jackson State. I thought they was going to have positive momentum. It seemed like some of the recruits they had were good on paper. But at the end of the day, Southern had a tough schedule. Essentially, the only win Southern has this season is a bad win against Mississippi Valley. You barely beat Valley. You lost all the other games, and you look bad doing so. From a play calling standpoint, like I said, the coaching staff is terrible. X's and O's, strategy, the whole nine. You don't make adjustments. But not only decision making, like why start Cameron McCoy against Bethune-Cookman, it's beyond me. So it's time to go in a different direction. And these are my list of candidates. Usually when I have these kind of lists, usually I start from the bottom and I work my way up to the top. But in this context, I'm going to do it the opposite way. So I'm going to start from the bottom and I'm going to work my way down. My number one candidate, who I think should be Southern's next head coach, and I'm not going to lie, like I'm going to just be truthful, like I'm going to say maybe my top 5 guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they might be out of Southern's reach from a financial standpoint. Would they be willing to come to Southern? Does Southern have the finances? From what I'm understanding, Southern might be strapped to Terrence Graves because of the financial situation. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing we need to evaluate. And also, when I was talking to Mr. Troy today, salute to him. Hopefully I'm getting the right name. We talked about this thing. He talked about these things. He was saying he feel like from a community outreach standpoint, fundraising standpoint, from a networking standpoint, from a fundraising standpoint, from a community outreach perspective, he feel like Roman Banks is good in those areas. But when it comes to hiring a head football coach, he feel like he's terrible. So from his perspective, basically what he said is he feel like Southern should hire a search committee or a hiring committee to decide who should be the next head coach and keep Roman Banks as the athletic director. I think theoretically, that was a good strategy because we know he good when it comes to like the small budget sports like basketball and soccer and those type of sports, but football is the revenue sport, is the money making sport. Southern has had some good basketball teams over the year with Ben Jobe and Roman Banks and other coaches, but Southern is a football school. Football is the money sport at Southern. So the whole keep Banks, I'm not gonna lie, I think you need to get rid of him first before you get rid of Graves. That's my personal opinion. In fact, let me hit the chat before I start reading off my list of candidates. Kendrick Wicker said NIL is messing up recruiting. Yeah, that's one component we really got to take into consideration. Not only that, but you got bigger PWIs poaching players from HBCUs, but it don't seem to really affect Jackson State as much. So, I mean, hey, Russell Smith said Stump was a brother-in-law deal. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I mean, not only Stump Mitchell, but a lot of, like, Southern hires are, like, good old boy network type of things. And that's why, like, everybody I talked to, they were saying Southern need to go outside of the SWAC, quit recycling all these SWAC coaches, like Fred McNair and Mickey Joseph and all these guys that have been around the SWAC. Essentially, the entire coaching staff, maybe minus Fred McNair, another coach, is from the Eric Dooley regime. So for the most part, all of these coaches are recycled coaches around the SWAC. You know what I'm saying? Russell Smith said Dawson Odoms took Stump's team and won the SWAC championship in 2013, 1 year later. Yeah, and that was the point I was making. Basically, Something Mitchell had talent on the team, but he just was a terrible head coach. Alf, salute to you. He said they all got the hook up. That is why teams looks hooked up. Yeah, big facts. Russell Smith said, Coach, I heard rumors about Kevin Sumlin a few years ago. I know it's a far shot, but what's the chance we get him coach on that level? In fact, I'm glad you brought that up because he one of the wild card tier list of my brother Jay Good list. Him and my list and his list, Jay Good in the chat. Salute to Jay Good. Jay Good played football at Southern. Like, he got a list and I got a list. I'm going to read both of them. And not only that, but a lot of these names, the guy, Mr. Troy, I talked to downtown today, downtown Baton Rouge. He said some of these names. I said some of these names. Jay Good said some of these names. So for the most part, people pretty much saying the same names. You know what I'm saying? Devin Hadrick, salute. He said, can we get a new AD while we edit? Preferably Avery Johnson. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I would love him to be the AD too, but I'm not going to lie. I think that might be a long shot. You know what I'm saying? Salute to Isaiah Wilson. He said, go Panthers. Yeah, I'm going to break down the game and I'm going to break down the game tomorrow in the next episode of the Tailgate Party. Salute to you, Isaiah Wilson. He said, see y'all Saturday. Yeah. Hopefully we bumping each other because I know the yard is going to be packed. It's going to be packed on the bluff come Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Devin Hadrick said, then Banks should be the deputy AD if that's the case. Yeah, I don't mind that. Avis Heat said, Southern is not a football school. It's a band school. Man, get out of here, Avis Heat. Man, salute to you, Avis Heat. Blackwater Bayou said, a search committee is good, but SU board members is the ones that have the final say. That's where the politics came in. Yeah, that's the problem with all this good old boy network bull job. You know what I'm saying? Salute to Adrian Cook. He said, Avis, at least we not subsiding. He said, PV is until Monday. Yeah, I definitely couldn't put that on the screen for sure, but I don't have my computer anyway. All right, so this is my list. I'm gonna start at the top and work my way down. Of course, my number one candidate is Trey Oliver. It was up to me. He would be the guy that you would go after. He's a proven winner. He'll be the guy I want to be Southern University's next head coach. Number two, Tennis Berry. And I'm going to be honest with you, he another one. Of course, he got ties to Southern, but, he's proven to be a good head coach. These are the top two candidates for me because when you look at the celebrity coaches and those type of guys or whatever, those guys don't always pan out for one. But more than anything, I think these guys are proven winners on the HBCU level. So that's why some of the celebrity coaches, a little shaky, right? The number three coach, and the irony is, except for the number 5 spot, me and Jay Good pretty much got the same guys. You know what I'm saying? So his 1, 2, 3, 4 and my 1, 2, 3, 4 are exactly the same. The number 3 spot, one of the SWAT groups I'm in or whatever. This is the number one name that everybody been talking about. Jabar Jaluk. A lot of people are extremely high on him. It's going to be interesting to see if Southern can land a big fish like him. But Jabar Jaluk is one of the names that keeps popping up. And a lot of people think that he should be the next head coach. But, of course, to come to Southern, just like somebody like Mickey Joseph, it's probably going to be like a pay cut. Would he be interested in coming back to Southern? University of Florida, it remains to be seen. The next guy on the list, of course, I brought him up earlier. I mentioned him earlier. The next guy is Marshall Falk. Right now, he's at the University of Colorado. If he's at Colorado, would he be interested in taking that pay cut coming to Southern? Who knows? So that's where the list kind of ends for me and Jay Good. We got the same top 4 candidates. In number 5 on my list, I have Quinn Gray. On number 5 on his list, he has Teddy Bridgewater. I think, the thing with Quinn Gray and Teddy Bridgewater, and the irony is, I got Quinn Gray at number 5. Jay Good got Teddy Bridgewater at number 5. But on the next, like, Teddy Bridgewater is on that next tier for me, whereas he has him at number 5. Of course, he's been coaching high school football, Tampa Bay Bucks or whatever. So I think Teddy Bridgewater would be a good candidate. So would Quinn Gray. So, I think that's kind of where, my top 5 and his top 5 differ. In addition to that, I also, in my top guys or whatever, I also have, like, at the top of the next tier, I have David Johnson from Florida State. I really don't see him on Jay Good's list. I think David Johnson, from Florida State, I think he also would be an excellent candidate for, to be the next head coach at Southern. Now, some of these other guys on tier 2 for both he and I, he got way more guys on my list, on his list, than I got on mine. A lot of people been talking about Matt Leon, and I'm not gonna even lie, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I know some people gonna be like, "Man, coach, you're racist." It ain't about racism. You already have a limited number of slots in terms of limited number of black head coaches in the NFL, limited number of black head coaches in college football in general. So now you're gonna, because I know people are like, "Well, hey, coach, Alcorn State had success with it." Cool. I understand Alcorn State has success with it, but unless this guy is a slam dunk, and he gonna guarantee me a SWAC championship and a Celebration Bowl win, I ain't too keen on hiring white head coaches. I mean, and it's no disrespect to Matt Leon. I don't care if it was Mark Orlando. Even if it was Mark Orlando, I still wouldn't be high on it. You know what I'm saying? So he got Matt Leon, and not only that, but in the Jaguar Perspective Facebook group that I'm in, like, Matt Leon name has been popping up a lot. So, of course, I got Teddy Bridgewater on that next tier. I got Teddy Bridgewater on the next tier. He had Teddy Bridgewater at the top, where I had Quinn Gray. So I got Matt Leon in the next tier, and that's kind of where my next tier ends, or whatever. But he also has, in terms of Jay Good, man, salute to my brother. And of course, at some point, I got to get him on the show. And not only that, we got to get him on HBCU Fanatics also. Terrence Quinn of Jackson State. Yes, Terrence Quinn for Jackson State. KJ Black from the Atlanta Falcons. He got Quinn Gray. I already had Quinn Gray, Albany State. And Teddy Keaton from Clark, Atlanta. So that's kind of the rest of Jay Good's list. Now, the next tier, like, this is what he calls the wild card tier. And we talked about this in the past. Southern ended up hiring Eric Dooley, but from what I understood at the time, it was a strong possibility that Southern was going to hire Kevin Sumlin from Maryland. Of course, Kevin Sumlin was also the head coach, Texas A&M, head coach of Houston. He'd have been around. From what I understood, like, I know somebody that knows somebody that know him. So I don't know him directly, and the person I know don't know him directly. But basically, they were saying they don't feel like Kevin Sumlin would fit Southern. First of all, he would just use that as a stepping stone to a Power 5 PWI. And he, just like Deion Sanders did with Jackson State, they feel like he'll be at Southern for a good time, but not for a long time. And in addition to that, they feel like his personality is kind of abrasive. They don't feel like Jaguar Nation would embrace him. They feel like he kind of has, like, butthole characteristics and butthole tendencies. So they don't know from a PR standpoint if he would jive well with Southern University, and he would rub Jaguar Nation the wrong way. And in addition to that, I didn't take this into consideration. I don't care, if you got a Hispanic wife, a white wife, or whatever, but it was like, oh, he got a white wife too. I'm like, man, I don't care. Now, in terms of Jay Good's, like, wild card tier, this next name we talked about it on HBCU Fanatics. He made an appearance recently at Grambling, and they say he's interested in getting back into coaching. Would he be interested in coming to HBCU like Grambling, like Southern, like FAMU, like Alcorn State? Coach O, Now, when I was talking to Mr. Troy this afternoon, I think the issue with Coach O, and not only that, but he has Art Browse, because when Grambling hired Hugh Jackson wanted to hire Art Browse he wanted to hire Art Browse as the offensive coordinator. I think the issue with Art Browse and Ed Orgeron and Coach O, Ed Orgeron, and Art Browse, they had success. Of course, Coach O won the national championship at LSU. The next year, they went from winning that national championship to being a 500 team. And really, when you count the bowl loss, less than 500. So the thing with Coach O is you won the national championship one year, the next year you completely fell off. See, LSU and Southern fan base are the same, kind of, both Baton Rouge. And the thing about Tiger Nation is the fact that the lack of institutional control he had, it was cool when you won a national championship. The next year, when you're a 500 coach, it don't fly well with Tiger Nation. So that's why they got him out there. And of course, Art Browse, they was having so many issues when Art Browse was at Baylor. Now, don't get me wrong. On the field, they was kicking butt. On the field, they was winning. But of course, it's a Christian school, whatever. And it looked bad when you got players getting in all kind of trouble, all this lack of institutional control. I'm gonna be honest with you. From what I was told, of course, Southern, they didn't hire Kevin. I mean, how be saying Kevin? They didn't hire Marshall Faulk because of the NFL Network scandal. And not only that, from what I understand, from an optic standpoint, Southern University. Well, that's the reason why Grambling didn't hire Art Browse as being the offensive coordinator under Hugh Jackson. So from a lack of institutional control standpoint, I don't know if Southern or other SWAC schools would be interested in hiring Ed Orgeron or Coach O and Art Browse. And from when me and Mr. Troy was talking today, he was saying that was the reason why they didn't hire Mickey Joseph, because evidently years ago there was some kind of like little minor PR issue scandal with Mickey Joseph in terms of some little minor issue he had with his wife when he was in Nebraska years ago or whatever. To me, I think it's a nothing burger. And not only that, one thing too, we talked about is the fact that evidently people around Southern, in terms of the powers that be, Desmond Allen brought it up on my channel too. He was saying like they really not interested in hiring celebrity coaches. So when you talk about guys like Coach O, like Art Browse, like Kevin Sumlin, like who else? Even like names were kicked around like Teron Matthew, like guys like that really wouldn't be in consideration. If anything, if Southern had to go one or two routes, if they had to go the good Division II head coach route or the good or going a celebrity coach route like Deion Sanders, like Eddie George, like Michael Vick, like Deshaun Jackson, those kind of guys, in all actuality, they'll probably go to Division II route if they had to pick one of those two routes. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, who Southern considers. Of course, Jay Good had way more people on his list than I had on my list. Again, just to kind of give you a little recap on my list, I had Trey Oliver, North Carolina Central, Kenneth Berry, South Carolina State, Jabbar Jaluk from the University of Florida, Marshall Faulk, Colorado, Quinn Gray, Albany State, David Johnson, Florida State. And I also had Teddy Bridgewater in that next tier. And that pretty much was it. And of course, the wild card coaches. Like I said, I'm not even gonna lie, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. I ain't really super sold on, the white coach thing. So that's why I scratched Matt Leon. I really didn't consider him. But Jay Good on his list, he got Terenzo Quinn from Jackson State, Matt Leon, North Carolina Central, KJ Black from Atlanta Falcons, Quinn Gray, Albany State, Teddy Keaton, Clark, Atlanta. And we both kind of had Kevin Sumlin in terms of like celebrity coaches or that wild card tier. Kevin Sumlin, Ed Orgeron, or Coach O, and Art Browse. So for the most part, his list and my list kind of similar. My list a little bit different than his or whatever. And at the end of the day, I think the issue with all of these guys I kind of kicked around. And in the past, I done talked about guys like, Tyrann Mathieu, because he from New Orleans or whatever. And from what I'm understanding, like Southern people in position of power, like board of directors type people, whatever, they really wouldn't consider like celebrity coaches. So from what I'm understanding, you could pretty much scratch Kevin Sumlin, Coach O, and Art Browse off of that list based on not just what Mr. Troy and I was talking about today, but also just people I don't talk to like in those type of circles or whatever. So at the end of the day, it's interesting. It remains to be seen, which direction they're going. You know what I'm saying? In fact, let me look at the chat real quick. Adrian Crook said, Ed, we paid due to $600K. You didn't know. Hold on, let me see. In fact, I need to go up. Some more. All right. Christopher Dukes got the smirking emoji. Oh no, Adrian Crook. I can't read that, bro. Devin Hadrick said Jaluk would be spot on, but that's a hefty price tag. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think Jabbar Jaluk is out of Southern price range. You know what I'm saying? DLOB 2010. He said y'all can hire the former coach who led the team to a SWAC championship appearance, Doc Gamble. Yeah. Adrian Cook said PV we win. Oh yeah, I can't read that. He said Teddy makes more sense for FAMU. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think Quinn Gray, and Teddy Bridgewater are good. I think excellent like FAMU like type selections. Ed said and enough crawfish, king kick, bees to get any of those coaches. Yeah, I mean I said that though, Ed. That's why I said I think all of those coaches. I think more than anything, maybe like a Quinn Gray. I think more than anything, I think looking at the list, I think the most realistic possibilities on the entire list are Quinn Gray first for me, but I think he will be more of a FAMU type of hire. Teddy Keaton, Clark Atlanta. I think those are kind of like your realistic options. But if it was up to me, that's who I would want. But that's the issue from what I'm understanding. That's why, from what I hear, is a possibility that Terrence Graves makes it through the rest of this season, and he makes it through all the next season. So, because he has a third-year option. Like Southern has a third-year option on him. But from what I'm understanding, the finances are not what they should be based on the whole Eric Dooley situation. So, Russell Smith said Nick Saban. Nah, Nick Saban is not coming to Southern. Al said, thank you, Coach, for addressing the white coach matter. Yeah, I mean, I done addressed it multiple times. I'm going to keep it a buck. I don't care if it was Mark Orlando. If somebody was like, hey, would you take Mark Orlando as the head coach of Southern? No. Sorry, not sorry. You only got a limited amount of black head coaches in the NFL and in college football. And truthfully speaking, we talked about this on HBCU Fanatics. Like, I would be cool with, James Franklin. He got fired from Penn State. Would he be interested in coming to Southern? More than likely not. But I would take him. You know what I'm saying? So, we talked about the Coach O thing on HBCU Fanatics. So, and not only that, but Deshaun Foster from UCLA, he got fired. Would he be interested in coming to Southern? More than likely not. Because I'm not going to lie, even if you look at, from what I heard, Kevin Sumlin really was interested in coming to Southern. But like I said, I think he was just trying to use Southern as a stepping stone to PWI Power 5. But truthfully speaking, Coach O, Art Browse, James Franklin, Deshaun Foster, all of those guys, they would be getting pennies on a dollar if they came to Southern compared to where they were. Spence Matthews said, wait, y'all fired Coach yet? No, they haven't fired him. But I'm going to just be honest with you. They need to. Because like I said, from if you look from a roster construction standpoint, they talked about this on HBCU game day or whatever. And for the most part, a lot of teams that are struggling, they got a lot of players in the transfer portal. And from a roster construction standpoint, Southern has done a terrible job in terms of evaluating talent, from a recruiting standpoint. When I talk about recruiting, I'm talking about from evaluating talent, the players that they actually brought in. A lot of these players don't seem the starters are really backups in my personal opinion. And not only that, the guys that's backups, they're not even playable or not even serviceable. And guys you lost in the transfer portal like Jelani Davis, he's at Kent State. I mean, he would be excellent on the opposite end from Kelby Givens as we speak. But so no, they didn't fire Coach Graves yet, but they need to. Avis, he said, y'all need to sell out 100%. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. The thing about it is, Avis Heat, Saturday, you're not even gonna be able to get on campus. It's gonna take about 3 to 3.5 hours to get on the bluff on the yard Saturday. However, truthfully speaking, after that, the last 2 games, fam, it's gonna be a ghost town around A.W. Mumford Stadium. It's gonna be easy to get on campus following this weekend. So I'm not gonna lie, they were saying that's one of the reasons why Mr. Troy was saying in terms of they should hire like a hiring committee, a search committee, because of course to kind of get rid of the good old boy network that Southern has been, and instead of recycling all these old SWAC coaches or whatever the case may be. But not only that, but I mean, from a finance standpoint, based on the whole Eric Dooley fiasco, I didn't like the way they brought Eric Dooley to Southern from Prairie View anyway. I didn't like it. It was Bush League to me. I mean, last time I checked, Prairie View was still another SWAC school. So you the poach and still a coach to get him to Southern. I didn't like the way they did it. I was never sold on him anyway. But truthfully speaking, I don't like the way they did it. I mean, even we're just gonna pretend it ain't the case. Just say you could get, I don't know, Tremaine Jackson from Prairie View right now. You could get T.C. Taylor from Jackson State, which is the way it's looking like that's gonna be the SWAC championship game. But truthfully speaking, Saturday was a de facto SWAC championship game. I think Jackson State pretty much the team to beat at this point. I mean, unless they have like a massive collapse or they slip on a banana peel, I don't see nobody in the SWAC beating Prairie View. I don't see nobody in the SWAC beating Jackson State. And I think Prairie View and Jackson State probably gonna be the SWAC championship game at the vet. That's my personal opinion. He was saying Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge, LOL. Ed said Christopher Dukes, Ed Reed is desperate. Might be enough to win the West, but maybe Deion Sanders sucked all the celebrity magic up and the kids don't care anymore. And I think the thing about it, I think the way Ed Reed handled the whole situation at Bethune, and of course I know my brother Jay Good gonna be like, not Jay Good, I'm sorry, not Jay Good, Big Joe Town. And I know I know Joe Town gonna be like, man, coach, I look better than Jay Good. But of course, both of them played D1 football. Jay Good at Southern, Joseph Townsend at Louisville. But, Joe Townsend, he high on Ed Reed. I don't care what nobody says. The way Ed Reed handled that whole situation with Bethune-Cookman, he burned a lot of bridges in HBCU lane. In fact, even PWI probably would touch him with a 10-foot pole. So, I'm not going to lie. And not only that, but you got to realize Deion Sanders, he's kind of one-on-one type of guy in terms of from a charisma standpoint. I'm not saying Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson and Terrell Buckley and other like former NFL player coaches. But I'm going to be honest with you, Mike Vick and Deshaun Jackson, they have more cachet, than somebody like a Terrell Buckley. So at the end of the day, I think you're right from that whole, celebrity coach thing. And plus, from what I understand, like Southern is like adamant against the whole celebrity coach thing anyway, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. But I don't think Southern will touch Ed Reed and all these other teams on the list. I mean, I don't know. Maybe one of the schools like FAMU would be desperate enough to get him. Maybe Grambling, maybe Alcorn State. So, I mean, it kind of remains to be seen who would be, who would want to touch him. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be honest with you. I would want him at Southern, and from what I'm understanding, A lot of other HBCUs would want him either based on the way things, transpired at at uh at Bethune-Cookman. So at the end of the day, you know, I think Chris Dishman and Terrell Buckley, I don't think they have as much notoriety and profile and cachet as Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson. And even them, I still think from a charisma standpoint, I don't think they have the kind of cachet that Deion Sanders had. And we're not talking about how good an NFL player they were. I'm talking about in terms of charisma, personality, being recognizable, that type of thing. Adrian Cook said, Ed GSU ain't playing like us, homie, LOL. Christopher Dukes. Ed said, Crook, that makes y'all look dumb. Spence Matthews said, Nick Saban is available. Man, Nick Saban is getting paid too much money to be on on college game day. He ain't coming to no Baton Rouge. He ain't coming back to Baton Rouge. Ed said, y'all was money laundering, paying Dooley $600K. Well, Adrian Crook said, Ed, yeah, that means we can give TC that y'all didn't give Prime that. Christopher Duke said James Franklin is available. Yeah, James Franklin got fired from Penn State. But let's be honest, even with his buyout, whatever Southern could give him, literally be pennies on a dollar, maybe not even that much. Ed said Crook bragging about overpaying a sorry coach. Spence, Matthew James Franklin is available. Adrian Crook said, Ed, that's why Prime left $300K LOL. Ed said, Crook, post TC, then y'all probably cry. Prime. Russell Smith said James Franklin is very available. That's the thing about it, though. I don't think James Franklin will want to come to Southern. Ed said Trent Dilfer to Southern. Not at all. Now, Ev, I'm not gonna lie. This is a excellent idea. Former St. James head football coach, Grambling assistant Robert Valdez is a reach coach. I'm not gonna lie. I would take Robert Valdez. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Some people gotta be like, man, coach, you talking about the former high school coach. But hey, Robert Valdez, he did an excellent job at St. James High. I think he's a good assistant coach at Grambling. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I would take Robert Valdez. I think that's a good idea. In fact, realistically, he might be the most feasible coach. He might be more feasible than any of these coaches that myself, Jay Good, and Mr. Troy talked about in this whole list. Maybe Robert Valdez, maybe Eric Randall, or even Marcus Randall. Maybe that might be the route you go. Adrian Cook said, Ed TC getting 250 like Graves, LOL, and the rest. Spence Matthews said, Eric Dooley is available. Nah, no, thank you. We're not going back down the Eric Dooley route. And not only that, but in one of the Southern University Facebook groups I'm in, they talked about what the boy name is, Dawson Odom, something. Basically, they used the phrase from Color Purple. Until you do right by Dawson Odom, everything y'all gonna do Southern gonna fall apart. I'm like, look, man, we not moving backwards. He was the head football coach at Norfolk State, and they didn't do nothing. So, nah, no thank you. Russell Smith said, Spence, the hell with Dooley. Big facts. James Franklin may as well. He can get 300 to 400K from SU and still get 48 million from Penn State, paying the rest. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest with you. I would, but man, James Franklin is not coming to Southern. Let's keep it a buck. Russell Smith said, I would rather Rick Comedy over Dooley. No, thank you on Comedy too. I don't want Comedy, not at all. Adrian Cook said, Coach O, a Cajun, big worm, blue, that's the difference. Smith Matthews, Trent Dilfer is available. Russell Smith said, Coach O going to see all them big on campus and go stone crazy. Yeah, from what I understand, he another year the cheating scandal too. Andrew Cook said, we almost hired TC back then. Christopher Duke said, Bill Belichick will be available soon. Nah, no thank you. You see how bad he's doing in North Carolina? No thank you. Al said, leave Coach O over there. I agree with you. Spence Matthews, yeah. Bill Belichick. Adrian Cook said, I know a school who can't win a bidding match. Yeah, he must be talking about Alcorn State, I guess. Russell Smith said Michael Vick is 1-5 at Norfolk right now. Yeah, but you got to realize it takes time to build a program. You know what I'm saying? And like they talked about, talking about this whole coaching thing. Too many coaches nowadays lazy. They recruit. In their office from behind the desk, looking at a computer screen. That's why you got guys like Mike Franklin that came to Southern and that essentially quit on his team. Of course, Trey Holly, because he's such a high profile player, he on a snap count restriction. So most of the Southern team, and not only that, but all these teams are struggling, like Grambling, like Alcorn State, like FAMU. They got a lot of players via the transfer portal. I think the transfer portal is a good tool, but I mean, you can't make that your whole focal point. When P. Richardson had all the success he had at Southern, like players like Michael Hayes and Chris Cooper wasn't his entire team. Those players put Southern over the top. That wasn't like his entire team. So at the end of the day, like you have to use the transfer portal wisely. You can't make, 80 and 90% of your team transfer portal players. Spencer Matthews said, why don't y'all hire J Max? I don't know. I mean, to me, I think you gotta hire somebody that's really gonna connect with Jaguar Nation. You know what I'm saying? Ed said, Ed Crook, nobody cares. You're pocket watching like a woman. Wanna be Robin Givens. Ooh. Adrian Crook said, Ed, public information, son. Ed Crook said, Ed said, Ed Crook, yet is not bragging rights. Adrian Crook said, we could flip a staff, upgrading lives with more than water. All right. Spence Matthews said, what's wrong with the coach y'all got? The coach we got, Spence Matthews, is the fact that from a recruiting standpoint, he hasn't done a good job evaluating and assessing talent. A lot of starters, in my personal opinion, are backups, especially up front on both sides of the ball. In the trenches, Southern is not Southern of old, especially now Southern teams of the 90s. And in addition to that, they have not done a good job developing talent, but more importantly, from a strategy standpoint, from an X and O standpoint, in terms of making adjustments, decision making, game management, clock management. Terrence Graves and the entire coaching staff has done a terrible job this season. Nothing to write home about, you know what I'm saying? Isaiah Wilson said, are there any non-HBCU SCS coaches you would want to see at SU? Non-HBCU SCS coaches. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, not that I can think of off the top of my head. My list is pretty much a short list. Like I said, I think Quentin Gray will probably be the most affordable, even though I probably would prefer like a Trey Oliver, Chennis Berry. More than likely, that's unrealistic, Isaiah Wilson. Adrian Crook said, Ed, we can pay. All right. Spartan 35, he said, I think SU will beat PV. PV isn't that good. I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be honest with Spartan 35. I'm going to break all of this down tomorrow in my next episode of the Tailgate Party. But honestly, I'm not putting my money on Southern. Truthfully speaking, I mean, maybe for the exception of maybe FAMU, maybe Grambling, maybe Alcorn. I'm not so on Southern. I mean, this team is pretty bad. And I'm not gonna lie, I think offensively, Jalen Woods, his situation is very strange. I was told he cleared concussion protocol. Now I'm hearing he practicing with the team, but he still hasn't cleared concussion protocol, which doesn't make sense to me. So as a result, you have a lot of inconsistency, at the quarterback position. The wide receiving core, I think, has potential, but I think at this point they done dropped way too many passes they made. But the big issue with me is offensive line play. So with the offensive line play, your right guard has done a very bad job. And not only that, but up front on both sides of the ball, really Southern struggling in all three phases of the game. So when you're struggling in all three phases of the game, I mean, unless they could wave a magic wand and be great for homecoming, like I'm not sold. He said, keep Graves the problem if you change coaches too fast. Well, guess what? Change coaches fast with with Eric Dooley. So, I mean, the thing about it is we need to get a proven coach that can really come in and change the culture. They talked about this on HBCU game. They said that it wasn't so much Jackson State in terms of like Deion is what took him over the top. It was more Ashley Robinson, athletic director. And, of course, you look at the FAMU situation, how James Cozy, like Willie Simmons did a good job building the program up. Essentially, T.C. Taylor took Jackson State and elevated it from what Deion Sanders did. Whereas on the flip side, if you look at FAMU, Willie Simmons built it up and James Cozy tore it down, So ABC, it's time for Terrence Graves to go. He has done a terrible job. Adrian Cook said, LOL, Dooley been paid off, LOL. Jay Good said tier 2 is more realistic and in that price range. Yeah, I was saying the same thing too. Like your tier 2 coaches, Jay Good, I'm not gonna lie, you did a good job in terms of breaking it down. Like I said, I'm looking at more at Quinn Gray. I think Teddy Bridgewater is more of a FAMU type hire. Really, to a certain degree, I see Quinn Gray is too. So realistically, I would honestly say that, Teddy Keaton and his entire coaching staff from Clark, Atlanta, will probably be, your best bet at this point. Spartan 35, so you value a black incompetent coach over a white competent coach. So you would rather have an incompetent HVAC technician over a competent non-black HVAC technician. See, the thing about it, Spartan 35, I would take Coach O or Art Browse because I feel like it'll be a sure thing. If I would hire a white coach at an HBCU, then guess what? Yeah, I would hire a Coach O or Art Browse. But in terms of somebody like a Matt Leon, a Mark Orlando, that type of thing, no. So I'm pro-black. I went to Southern. Yeah, maybe it's a part of who I am. And I know people will be like, well, hey, Alcorn State had success with a white head coach, and I hated every minute of it too. So at the end of the day, you can slice how you want, but if I'm going to hire a white head coach, I better be guaranteed to win the Celebration Bowl. Point blank, bottom line, period. Spence Matthews said y'all should have just kept Dooley till this contract ran out, then start fresh. Yeah, but I'm not going to lie. See, the issue with that is Spence Matthews is the same issue from what I'm hearing in terms of we might be stuck with Terrence Graves for the rest of this season and for all the next season. The issue with that is you're going to alienate your fan base. Realistically, when Dooley was the head coach, that last game against Prairie View at A.W. Memphis Stadium, Peterson Field, except for die-hard season ticket holders like myself, it was a ghost town. And it's going to be the same thing this year. This weekend, A.W. Memphis Stadium is going to be packed. It's going to take you 3.5 hours to get on Southern University's campus. But after this coming Saturday, it's going to be easy to get on campus. And A.W. Memphis Stadium is going to look like a ghost town. So it's going to be the same thing. So that's the reason why they had to get rid of Dooley. And that's the same reason why you have to get rid of Graves, because you don't want to alienate your fan base. I'm not going to lie. Literally, everybody I talk to about Southern University football, they all say the same thing. Get rid of Banks and get rid of Dooley. I'm sorry, not got me saying Dooley. God dog it. Get rid of Banks and get rid of Graves. I mean, they won't fire Roman Banks as the athletic director, and they won't fire Terrence Graves as the head football coach. Point blank, bottom line, period. Blackwater Bayou said, how is Southern's finances not where it's supposed to be, but SU shooting fireworks at every home game? I'm not gonna lie, that's a very, very, very good point, Blackwater Bayou. That's an excellent point. And I'm not gonna lie, the fireworks in a light show, to me, is stupid, especially when you're getting your head kicked in. The only way them fireworks should go off is if you win it. Against Alabama State, you're getting your head kicked in the start of the fourth quarter. And guess what? You're shooting all fireworks in the light show, and guess what? Alabama State getting amped up. The same thing with Jackson State. So, yeah, I agree with you. 100%, you know what I'm saying? And not only that, from what I understand, in terms of talking to Mr. Troy and talking to multiple people or whatever, the way they talk, like, from a fundraising standpoint, Roman Banks does a good job. But if he does such a great job from a fundraising standpoint, then why is finance such a huge issue? Well, part of the reason why finance is such a huge issue is because You overpaid Eric Dooley, and then you fired him, and you still had to pay him. So, Nathaniel Frank said, PV 3577. I'm going to address that tomorrow. Adrian Cooks will LOL to give you the name you had, like fam, you did. Devin Hadrick said, the way Dooley sold a dream to Southern should be studied. LOL. Yeah, big facts. Ed said, JSU can't be the team to beat. Y'all told me the quarterback sucks. Yeah, and guess what? He played great against Southern. He had a career game. And guess what? He played good against Alabama State Saturday, Ed. So I don't know why you're trying to beat a dead horse, Ed. We didn't already prove our point. You already proved your point. Like, Jackson State is the number one team in the SWAC. I mean, I don't know what more do you want, Ed. Tell me what more do you want. All right, Joseph Davis, salute to you. He said, get Nicholls State OC, former Catholic High head coach. He said, Gabe Fertitta. I think that'll be a interesting choice, but I'm not gonna lie. I would prefer Robert Valdez over him. That's my personal opinion. Adrian Cook said, we gotta let Banks hire who he wants. The fans hired Dooley, and the grades and the results of that. No, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't sold on either one of them, truthfully speaking. So, I mean, not only was I never sold on Dooley, but I thought it was a Bush League way the way they got him in Southern, truthfully speaking. So, no, I mean, if anything, like I said, you got a lot of fan base that want Roman Banks out too. Like I said, Roman Banks was a good basketball coach. He's left a lot to be desired in terms of athletic director. So, I mean, it is what it is. Adrian Cook said, everyone in this chat knows Dooley see a wideout coach. Well, Spence Matthews said, why don't y'all hire Beyonce? She will bring the boosters. Yeah. Man, salute to Teldron Leathers. Man, salute to your fam. He said, what up, coach? Man, I'm just chilling, man. Devin Hedrick said, Valdez, Bryce Brown, and Edna Carr. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you. Somebody kicked Bryce Brown's name around in the car, too. I'm not going to lie. If he could transport literally his whole Edna Carr team from high school to Southern, I mean, that in itself, I think, would probably be an upgrade over the product you got. Avis Heat, support Graves. Yeah, we know Avis Heat, he be trolling big time. Salute to Stuart Darrell. He said, Kevin Sumner. I'm going to be honest with you. Like I said, this person that I talked to behind the scenes, he said he don't think Kevin Sumner will be a good fit. From his personality, the white wife thing, I don't care about that. I really don't care about that. But he just feel like Sumner would use Southern as a stepping stone of PWI Power 5. And in addition to that, he feel like he would connect with Jaguar Nation in terms of from a personality perspective. Kind of like Stump Mitchell, if that makes sense. Spence Matthews said, y'all need to put the money behind Graves. But I'm not gonna lie, man. Them JSU fans be trolling. Joseph Davis said, what happened to Mike Franklin? From what I was told by a few people, they say basically, he said Southern sucks. He don't like Baton Rouge. He don't like Southern University, the school or whatever. And basically, he just quit on his team. I mean, I think he was a decent player, but I don't know. Maybe he thought he was Trey Holly. So, I mean, I don't know. But from what I was told, he quit on his team, basically. Adrian Cook said, no, I'm talking about GSU subsiding is moving money around the school to pay bills, LOL, since Prime left, LOL. Adrian Cook said, that $1 million a home game was a lie, LOL. Stuart Darrell said, top 3 high school coaches. He said, SMWW, football scout, senior bowl scout, school, Darrell Stewart. He said Kevin Sumner, Eric Randall, Chennis Berry, and Melvin Spears. I like Melvin Spears. I like Eric Randall. And the Robert Valdez, I like that too. Evans, he said, Coach, you say it takes time to build a program, but you only want to give Graves 2 years. Yeah, I did say that. And I stick wholeheartedly behind that. But if you look at the players that Terrence Graves has on his roster from a roster construction standpoint, like the starters are backups in terms of, especially up front on both sides of the ball. Like 67. I'm not gonna lie, he has had a terrible season. That's part of the reason why Southern's run defense is terrible. Like Southern can't stop the run. So a lot of these guys that are currently on the roster, they're backups in terms of the starters, and some of your backups are not even serviceable players, not even playable. And I'll say no darn LBs, linebackers. Well, I'm not gonna lie, Al, if you're talking about in terms of coach, from a coaching perspective, no linebackers, but in terms of Southern really Kelby Givens defensively, Kelby Givens, Mike Jones Jr., and Vince Page Jr. is kind of like the three best players on your defense as we speak. So I'm not gonna say they don't have no linebackers. Christopher Deuce laughing emojis. Spence Matthews said, think about Beyonce head coach at halftime light show with her singing fireworks. Now I'm not gonna lie, man. Y'all Jackson State fans trolling big time. Sonic Boom C98 said, give Graves one more ride. Nah, no thank you. It's time for him to get off right now. Al said, if Graham can't beat SU this year, fire the staff and SU staff. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. Southern and Graham, the whole staff probably gonna get fired anyway. But truthfully speaking, that's probably the only game I'm sure that Southern could win. I don't think Southern could beat anybody else, but Southern could beat Grambling. And Grambling fans bragging about, hey, at least we didn't get blown out like y'all. Man, hey, y'all the pot calling the kettle black. Y'all had to cheat to beat Kentucky State, a Division II school. Man, get out of here. Christopher Duke said, keep Graves. No, thank you. Joseph Davis said, at Sonic Boom C98, LOL. He said, James Bell should have been given a few more years. Spencer Matthews said, Dooley would have got y'all right. Y'all didn't give him enough time and money. Man, get out of here. Sonic Boom said, Drew Brees to SU. I'll take Drew Brees. Sonic Boom C98 said, don't fire Graves, Thomas, or Cozy. Yeah, basically, you want to keep Graves at Southern. You want to keep Cedric Thomas at Alcorn State. You want to keep James Cozy at FAMU. You want to keep Mickey Joseph at Grambling. So pretty much, so Jackson State could pretty much run the table like they're running. Spencer Matthews said, Al Capone and SU, get the mob involved. But y'all trolling big time. Adrian Crook said, they hired Eric. I'm off the staff somewhere. Russell Smith said, Coach, did I hear Mike Franklin, the other running back, just quit? I thought he was funny. I haven't heard his name. Yeah. I mean, basically, they talked about it in the chat, my previous live stream. And in addition to that, like, a couple people told me the same thing. It was like, yeah, basically, he tapped out and he quit on his team. He didn't like Southern. And in addition to he didn't like Southern, he just wasn't feeling it. I mean, from what I'm understanding, he already graduated, but if he legitimately quit from I've been told this by multiple people, he legitimately quit. So is he gonna try to turn around and pivot and hit the port and go somewhere else next year? To me, if you quit on your team, I'm gonna be honest with you, I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole. You know what I'm saying? Adrian Crook said, imagine JSU getting a land deed to a stadium. That would be something. And for those that don't know, basically what he's saying is Jackson State does not own the vet. You know, Southern University actually owns A.W. Monk Stadium, P. Richardson Field. The vet is for the city of Jackson. So, I mean, so that's basically what he's saying. But, you know, this is who I would hire in terms of if I had my choice. Southern University had the finances. They can get whoever they want. Those would be the coaches I would hire. But I think some very interesting names were brought up in terms of, you know, guys like Robert Valdez. You know, I think he would be a good name. And, you know, a lot of good names were brought up. So I think it's something to think about, something, you know, something to really consider, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, you know, Eric Randall, you know, Melvin Spears, Robert Valdez, you know, so some good names were brought up. But I appreciate everybody that came through, you know, showed love. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Robert Valdez or Bryce Brown or one of those guys gonna be the next head coach of Southern. But I think it's time to move away from Terrence Graves. And in addition to that, The board of directors is going to have to do some soul searching. Should they really keep Roman Banks or get rid of him? I mean, if it was me, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, he definitely was a very good basketball coach, but he has left a lot to be desired as an athletic director. I'll get rid of Roman Banks. Then I will get rid of Terrence Graves. But in terms of, even if you keep Roman Banks, and like Mr. Troy said when I talked to him downtown Baton Rouge today, hopefully I'm getting his name right. But it sounded like I heard the lady call him that. Basically, they have to get this next hire right in terms of head coach. Southern has not won a SWAC championship since 2013. You know, whether we talking about, you know, the whole Dawson Odoms fiasco, Jason Rollins, Eric Dooley, Terrence Graves, even going back to Stump Mitchell, Southern has done a terrible job in terms of basically hiring the right head coach. Not only do you need to hire the right head coach, you need to get the right staff. You need to get a good strength conditioning coach, a good offensive line coach, a good special teams coordinator, good offense coordinator, good defensive coordinator, a good staff from top to bottom, an excellent athletic director, and Southern needs some stability. You can't keep hiring a bad coach and then get rid of him after 2 seasons. Like, Southern needs some consistency in terms of the football program. You need to hire somebody that can really evaluate talent, develop talent, and somebody that makes decisions, good decisions in terms of, from a decision-making standpoint, make good decisions in terms of, you know, X's and O's, strategy, adjustments, game management, clock management, play calling, the whole nine. So Southern really needs to get this right in terms of the board of directors. I'm not even going to point it at Roman Banks because, like I said, if it was up to me, most of my subscribers, Roman Banks would be out of there. But that's it for this live stream. Tomorrow, probably ain't going to be tomorrow night. It's probably going to be tomorrow afternoon, maybe about 3:30, 4 o'clock. I'm going to break down homecoming for this coming Saturday against Prairie View. I've been on here almost 90 minutes. God dog. But anyway, tomorrow night. No, not tomorrow night. Tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon, we have the next episode of the Tailgate Party. I'm going to break down Southern versus Prairie View in terms of, you know, strategy, X and O's, that type of thing, who I think going to win, score prediction, the whole nine. So be certain to come back tomorrow. You know, I appreciate Swacking the Fool, everybody that came through, dropped in the chat, showed some love. Like I say, I'm less than 110 subscribers away from that magical, majestic 1,000 subscriber mark. So please like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Also, after this live stream, in the chat, I'm going to put the link to my Southern University Facebook group. Join the Facebook group. Come on over so we can have more dialogue, more discussion. I'll catch y'all on the rebound tomorrow afternoon. Y'all have a blessed, phenomenal evening. Catch y'all on the rebound. Peace and blessings. And go Jags. You dig.